And from discussions on nuclear weapons abroad to discussions taking place right here in the United States, President Barack Obama is working on a new nuclear weapons strategy that will reduce America's nuclear arsenal by thousands of weapons. Well, here to talk to me about this, bring us more details, Hans Christensen, director of the Nuclear Information Project. Hi there.
How are you?
So the headlines all read that the White House is rethinking its nuclear policy. What should we expect here? And I also want you to address the differences, if any, of this administration's policies versus the Bush administration.
Well, there are a lot of rumors around town, but I think the most consistent rumor is that they are considering reducing the role that nuclear weapons play vis-a-vis chemical and biological adversaries, if you will. That is a particular corner, if you will, of the U.S. Nuclear policy that evolved over the Clinton years and the Bush administration. And I've heard for a long time that there might be a change there, that the United States would change to a sole purpose nuclear policy, if you will, that nuclear weapons are just intended to deter nuclear attacks. So this administration's nuclear policy review can turn out to be quite different than the earlier one, which for various reasons actually expanded the role of nuclear weapons.
But it's not all about making cuts. I mean, as I understand it, even Joe Biden said before that they plan to invest billions more dollars on updating laboratories and things like that, right?
Yes. Well, they're cutting weapons that are in excess of national needs, if you will, national security needs. Those are really weapons that we're still trying to cut down on the number of weapons from the Cold War, and that's the process that's still going on. At the same time, they're trying to invest in new technologies in order to be able to make sure that the weapons that are going to remain in the arsenal will remain reliable for the indefinite future. And that's where the investment will come. But that's not to build new nuclear weapons. It's in order to maintain the weapons that are already there in case they need to get fixed.
Let's talk about the fact that the administration has rejected proposals that say that the United States would never be the first to actually use these nuclear weapons. What do you make of that?
Well, it is something that there has been a lot of pressure on the administration to get to meet that policy goal. But I think it's going to be rejected. At least that's what we hear right now. The intention would be simply to go out and declare, whatever happens, we will not be the first to use nuclear weapons against anyone. It would be a very drastic shift in U.S. Nuclear policy, and I think it's meeting resistance within a lot of different corners of the administration. How they're going to convince the international community that the changes they are making are significant is going to be the big challenge. It's one thing to cut weapons. It's another one to illustrate how they have actually reduced the mission. And that's going to be a challenge, I think.
Well, speaking of pressure, let's talk about the political implications this has for Barack Obama, because his critics say he's naive. He's doing this when there are all these new threats. He's pointing to Iran. They're pointing to North Korea. Even his supporters on the other side are saying he's moving too cautiously and that he's not that much different than George W. Bush. So how does the Obama administration sort of find that balance, do you think?
It's a tough one, definitely. When you go and you mess with big issues like these, you're going to find enemies on both sides. It's hard to please everyone. But I think that he has a core interest in trying to change U.S. nuclear policy. He has clearly communicated that. And the question is just how much can he get away with? I don't think...
Have you been able to answer that question? How much can he get away with? And what exactly is he trying to get away with, do you think?
He's trying to get away with the steps that are clearly signaling that the U.S. is changing, that it's moving toward a different types of nuclear posture than we had during the Cold War, and that we're really serious about moving toward deep cuts and eventual elimination of nuclear weapons.
Now, we mentioned the Bush administration before. Obama has sort of made this his top priority. But are voters going to be thinking about that when they go to cast their ballots, whether it be in 2012 or even 2010, the midterm elections?
No. Nuclear weapons never win elections in the United States. It's always about, money and jobs and
Which
the
is
economy.
a lot different than 20 years ago, right?
Yes.
When everyone was paying attention to this issue. Why do you think that is? Why do people sort of kind of brush it aside? It's not
because
important?
there was a whole lot more at stake in those days. The United States and Soviet Union were pointing tens of thousands of nuclear weapons at each other. Today, other than the United States and Russia, and to a small extent China, there is no threat out there that can threaten the existence of those two countries. And so I think even though people talk a lot about Iran and North Korea, it's not a threat, if you will, at that level at all. So
Hans
it's very
Christensen,
different.
I want to thank you for being here. And of course, thank
Thanks.
you for your analysis.